Should we sing one more or are we done?
One more?
All right,
More.
Definitely more.
just kept
Definitely.
muting us. All right,
Please.
let's go.
We heard a lot more in rehearsal than that. I mean,
All
come
right.
on.
That's
Please.
right.
Here we go. By the
The
light
of the silvery moon, I want to spoon
with my honey out crew loves to honeymoon.
keep shining in June. Your silvery beams will bring love's dreams. We'll be cuddling soon by the silvery moon. Oh, by the light, by the dark, by the light.
Of the silvery moon.
Not the sun, but the moon.
I want to spoon.
Not a serving spoon, but spoon.
To my honey out crew loves to honeymoon.
With no pants on.
Keep it shining in June. Your silvery beams will bring love's dreams. We'll be cuddling soon by the silvery moon.
Oh, shine on harvest moon. Up in the sky. I ain't had no lovin' since January, February, June, and July. No time, ain't no time to sit alone and spoon. So shine on harvest moon for me and my gal. Oh, Mr. Moon, won't you shine a little light down on us as we cuddle in the night. I love her and she's certified I'll be all right, but I haven't had a kiss since the middle of July. No time, ain't no time to sit alone and spoon. So shine on
harvest moon.
We're playing on Zoom. Shine on
harvest moon.
much better than playing in a big old balloon.
Or a tune.
Shine on harvest moon. Thank you very much.
Come on.
Buddy.
Yay!
Bye.
I'm watching everybody's faces. I know you all are performing, you can't see, but the smiles on everybody's faces are, you're concentrating, you don't see it. It's amazing. It's really awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
We're available for this kind of performance anytime you need it. We play for sushi.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Definitely brightened everybody up here. You can just tell, just look around. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, the next thing we had on the agenda was public comment, and we were hoping that people, if they want to make a comment, they could in the Zoom chat, kind of raise your hand, say hello, I'd like to make a comment, and we'll let you talk. So I see Tony is waving at us, Tony Reddington. So
Tony, you're unmuted.
yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Wow. Getting here was a battle. I felt like I overcame a technological miracle. Hi, I'm Tony Reddington. I live in Ward 3. I'm on the Neighborhood Planning Assembly Steering Committee, and we've yet to figure out how to, we plan to Zoom, but we haven't met on Zoom to plan how to do Zoom. So you guys are ahead of us. I'm here representing the Pine Street Coalition that met this morning actually on Zoom. Very good meeting. And you probably remember me, hopefully some of you, since we presented, I presented with Steve Goodkind and also with Charles Simpson at the ancient meetings last November and December over at the church and down at City Market. So, and a lot, as you all know, a lot's changed since then. I guess I'll just say simply that number one, we have been, Pine Street has been developing what we call a new street approach, which hopefully will lay the groundwork for a grand bargain for all, so that we can get a project that moves forward without any more litigation. We did go to U.S. District Court last June 6th, and there's not even been a exchange of a piece of paper yet. You can believe that, in almost a year, because of issues with environmental justice in the King Maple neighborhood, and also other, as we know, the latest delays. So we want to see something done. We don't want to lose the money. We looked at what we had as for design guidelines for 5 years now that have evolved a little bit, and say, hey, I think we can agree on a new street, finish up the old unfinished park roadway, 2 lanes, bring it up to Flynn, stop, and also run a first-class, world-class separate bikeway and bicycle and sidewalk all the way up through the entire length of the route, all the way up to Main Street. That in a nutshell is what we're proposing. Plus, we would have a nice, perfect entrance, of course, for City Market and Petroglyphs. That needs to be taken care of. To make sure the trucks get taken care of, make sure that we have a quality and safe facility. But we would save about 1.5 miles of roadway lane miles, reduce the cost. As we say, quickest, cheapest, greenest, and most safe. So that, in a nutshell, what's going on. We would like to have perhaps a few minutes at your, either a meeting or 2 from now, and we'll have a finished, we'll be a little more well-rounded proposal. It's been discussed all informally with a couple of councilors, and it's been sent around. Take a look at our website, Safe Streets Burlington, or our Facebook Pine Street Coalition, and you'll see the map. I think it's pretty easy to read, and we think it provides a basis for perhaps a grand coalition.
Tony, can you show it on screen, or?
If you guys let me share, I'll show you the map, which is, I have to hit the share button first. Share screen, and then I go to the screen that I want to share. It won't be your picture, Spencer. It'll be this one.
Whatever, okay.
There it is. It's magic. It worked.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is New
great.
Street. We put the map together last month. It's Carolyn Bates did the work, and basically you can see where the existing road to nowhere is. It comes up to it comes up to home, and then New Street would continue on up the blue, I guess the dark green line, but it stops at Flynn. There'd be no new roadway beyond there. The red line all the way up is a separate bikeway and a sidewalk, and this is sort of the way it looks. Here's the roadway, New Street. If you're looking towards Home Avenue from Flynn, this is New Street. This is the 2-way bikeway, and this is a sidewalk which would be adjacent to City Market's area. And then at Flynn, it would be much smaller than this, but basically a roundabout with a separate lane for bicycles. This is bicycles, this is pedestrians, they're kept separate. So we have something for everybody because we got a lot of room right there. In a nutshell, that's the proposal. There's some other small wrinkles. We'd have a nice crossing Anglesby Brook, which most people don't realize is really there. It's our biggest waterway. We think we can get the V-Trans it stores some old historic truss bridges for reuse, and we could get one that could be for free, and they help maintain it for our bike ped facility crossing there at Anglesby Brook. I think that's part of it. We gain some acreage. We avoid the lawsuit or the legal entanglements with Innovation Center, who's also been fighting this project from day one, because we won't be bringing a lot of traffic up to their front door. Stop there, and we'll talk next month or a couple months from now. Thank you for the time.
Great.
Awesome. Okay, we got.
Get rid of it.
Tony, would you mind unsharing
Yes,
your
I will.
screen when
I
you've got
will.
a minute?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'll just take me a second to get there. Let's see if I can hit. I'm trying to get to the location
Can you
where I
just
can
delete it?
unshare.
Top of the screen, Tony.
Oh, okay.
Good, thanks.
Here it is. I can just turn. Can I just turn share off like that? Does that do it?
Good.
think
yeah,
we're all
yeah,
set.
Yeah,
How's that?
you did it. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we still have more time for other public comments. Somebody else? Okay, I see Robin. Robin had her hand up. I see her waving her
Yeah,
hand.
okay, thank you. Brief comment. I was so thrilled in something, I think the community newsletter, to realize that Burlington is a peninsula. We're a peninsula.
Hmm.
I mean, so what does this mean? We're between the lake and the river, and we just, that's where our dimension is. So somehow that made me feel a wonderful new quality of life in Burlington. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Robin. Anybody else? Still have time? Our agenda has 10 more minutes for public comment.
Mary Sullivan, could I just, I'm sorry, I didn't put my hand up. So.
Well, thanks, Mary. Please go ahead.
I've been working, Joey and I both have been working on the unemployment issues that constituents have. So if anybody needs any help, we're trying to do the part that we can. We are not Department of Labor employees, but we have a new portal that helps. It seems like it's expediting some of them, not all of them. So we're trying to do our best, but if you need help, please reach out to me on my legislative email, msullivan@ledge.state.vt.us.
All right, thanks a lot, Mary. Nate, I think I saw you kind of waving your hand. Did you have a public comment?
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
Want to start out by saying thanks everybody for helping put this together. It's pretty cool. You know, it's a little unconventional, but you know, it's nice to be able to see some folks, get to see inside everybody's house a little bit. And it's kind of interesting that this is the first community meeting we've had since town meeting day. So I just want to, especially to the folks in Ward 5, you know, I just want to say thanks for all the conversations that we had. Thanks for, you know, letting me in your house on cold days. And, you know, it's exciting to be back in a group of you all and be able to, you know, kind of see what the next step for our neighborhood looks like and this combined South End neighborhood will look like over the next few months. So, yeah, that's it. Just great to see everybody. Thanks again for putting this on. And, you know, I hope to be in touch with many of you folks moving forward.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Okay, we're starting to get the people for the next item, but okay, good. We still have time. So Ben, yeah, I see you raising your hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much, Matt. Thanks for everyone from the Ward 5 and 6 NPAs who put this together. It's really awesome to see neighbors' faces here. And with Mary Sullivan making a comment there, I thought it was important that someone chimed in. I'm sure she's received many accolades already and will continue to receive them. But I know that Mary had announced that she was retiring from the legislature. And I just wanted to say, as one of your constituents here, Mary, thank you very much for your leadership over the years. I feel we've been very lucky in this crisis with the leadership we've had, both locally here as well as at the state level. And you've obviously played a big part of that now, as always. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That's bringing tears to my eyes. So I appreciate the words.
Thanks a lot. Ben.
Go ahead, Megan. Sorry, Matt.
Oh, great. Sorry. I'm not muted, right? So I just want to take this opportunity, since I get to talk to you all, and I don't always, as Channel 17, that we're no longer going to be Channel 17. I just want to let any of you who are on the Comcast dial know that we're now moving from Comcast Channel 17 to Comcast Channel 1087. If you ever want to ask me about the wonky details, I'll share them with you some other time. But you'll see, if you tune into your YouTube playlist, you'll see that we have a nice new logo and we're Town Meeting Television. We've always been Town Meeting TV, but I just want to take this opportunity, since I have some civic-minded supporters, to get the word out. On May 28th, Comcast dial will no longer have our content on channel 17 will be on 1087. Thanks.
All right, great. I saw Carolyn Bates had her hand up. Can we unmute Carolyn?
Okay. I just want to thank Mary Sullivan, everyone for putting Zoom together, Mary Sullivan for the incredible work she's done, both with Burlington Electric when she started incredible work for all the schools to help make them more sustainable. I don't remember a lot of things she did there. And then for all the work now that she's done in the state, and maybe she should let us know where she wants to go next. That would be great. And thank you all for putting all this together. I can only say is I love having everyone in town on my street because I take a walk and now I see who lives here. And I never used to, but you know, that's the nice part of all of this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think a lot of us would echo that. You know, you definitely are making some connections that people probably maybe didn't have before. But I think that's a really good observation. Okay, we're just about done with this time. Is there any, if there is another person, we do have a little more time, or are we all set right now?
Mary, want to respond to that?
Okay, good. I think we've got most of the people we want for the next item on the agenda, which is a COVID-19 update. So I see we have Chip and Joan, Darren Springer, and Luke McGowan. I think they were all on the agenda to talk. So I don't know what order you all would like to go in, who would like to go first and how you'd like to begin. But I'll leave it to you all.
Can certainly defer to my council colleagues if you'd like to start. Usually good practice.
Well, I think you probably have more information and more up-to-date information, Luke, than we have. And maybe if you can, you know, the Resource and Recovery Center is doing so much. If you can give us an update on that, and then if you miss anything, because I know you can't cover everything that we think might be of community interest, maybe we'll chime in with some additional points. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Yes.
So this is also my first time addressing an NPA. So thank you for having me here. This is a little different than I think NPAs have been run in the past. But for everybody, so I can introduce myself, I'm Luke McGowan. I'm the director of CEDO. I'm also helping oversee the part of the city's response to this crisis, which is known as the Resource and Recovery Center. I want to first say that, like, during any crisis, especially some, one kind of so far-reaching as this one, it's so clear how important community ties are, and sort of how communities come out of a disaster like this. It really relies on the social fabric and resilience that's there before really makes a difference. And so I think, the NPAs in particular are a special part of Burlington's ability to come out of this, to come through it and come out of it, better and stronger. So thank you for being a part of this organization, and thank you for joining by Zoom. And, something I've thought about, I don't want to go against the city health guidance, but I've been thinking a lot, and, it was made clear by some of the things you were saying that, though we are social, we're calling it social distancing, it's really physical distancing, but the social ties are as important as ever. So thank you for playing your part in that. And I just want to quickly thank, I see Sydney Hinckley out there too, so my colleague. So hi, Sydney. So the background on the RRC, and I assume most people have, or I hope most folks have heard about it, but I just wanted to give a quick sort of summary of where we came from and what we're doing. We recognized pretty early on that during any crisis, there's lots of needs that are emergent, and not you can't always anticipate every need. What you do know is that people will have questions. There's a lot of information that needs to be condensed and consolidated and made digestible for folks. There's also lots of new programs, especially federal programs that come online. So for those of you around during Hurricane Irene or other disasters, there's a response effort, and then there's the process of navigating that response effort. So if you're a business owner, I'm sure you're aware of, kind of the federal programs that have come online, which, the financial support is welcome. But as with any government program, there's lots of paperwork, lots of navigation that has to happen. And we thought the city's early role would be to help navigate those things. So we very quickly set up to kind of address those issues. We also realized that what's true about this crisis is what's true about every crisis, is that those are most vulnerable. Those who are most vulnerable are the ones most affected. And so we set ourselves up very early on with a focus on the people who are experiencing homelessness and how to get them the resources that they need, the people really at the bottom of the income ladder as our top priority as in terms of routing resources. So that was kind of the initial thinking. We kind of, from just a few people kind of mainly within CEDO, we quickly realized this is a much bigger job than only CEDO, and started working across the city with almost every department. But I think at our peak, we were 8 different city departments and 41 different city employees contributing to this effort, which has really been about answering questions. So there's a phone number and an email, which, actually maybe Sydney can help me if you can chat those into the box so everyone has that. And there's also a website that keeps all of this information, which is a great place to see. And, to date, we've answered, over, just about 900 different inquiries by phone and emails. So, and what that represents, that's 900 different Burlingtonians who are calling in about questions that range from how can I navigate this crazy unemployment system, or how can I get a loan for my business, or I'm experiencing anxiety. I've been stuck at home for 3 weeks and I'm scared to go outside, 8 weeks now. And what are the resources out there for me to access? So it kind of really ranges, and it's been both kind of heartwarming and heartbreaking, these conversations, because a lot of people have been affected in so many different ways. Our staff has gone out and delivered diapers and petty cash so people can afford food. We've stood in line at nonprofits at Feeding Chittenden to make sure we can get food to people's homes because they're afraid to leave. We've delivered mail. We've done a little bit of everything at the center so far. And just to give you a sense of how we're organized, we see it as sort of two layered efforts. One is this direct response, so actually having a human being on the phone to talk to about what the needs are. But there's also this systems level response. So we are regularly in touch with sort of the amazing nonprofit community here in Burlington to make sure that they are getting their needs met at scale. So we see the city's role as actually better suited most of the time to serving those sort of system level needs. I want to shout this out, but I'll let Councilor Shannon really take it on. One of the biggest efforts of the RRC has been our mask making and distribution effort. And, it's been a huge kind of great group of people who've contributed at every level. It's actually driven a lot of the call and email volume at the RRC, which, again, it's really been a point of light during this crisis, is many of the calls we've gotten are from people saying, hey, I want to help. What can I do? And that has been a great effort to get masks out to people who need them quickly. We have a kind of whole bunch of things in our toolbox about how we're responding. We think a lot about language access. So we launched a Trusted Community Voices program just in the last couple of weeks. And so we identified sort of 5 communities within Burlington, mainly New American and refugee communities, that have had difficulty getting access to information quickly and services quickly. And so now we have representatives from those communities kind of working directly with us to make sure that the needs are being met and that we're communicating more directly. We're also hosting webinars every week on different topics, from mental health to navigating loan programs to navigating unemployment. And we're kind of constantly coming up with new ideas and implementing them. And we're moving so fast. I have reflected that government maybe doesn't always move that quickly. So for those of you outside of government, maybe it's not so surprising. But in the last 8 weeks, the amount of activity that has been done is really, really unprecedented in, certainly in my experience working in government. And I think, for most folks, they've had that experience too. Just to make a point too, it's all virtual. Everybody's working effectively from home, in home offices with their families, kids running across the frame, emails piling up, using new tools every day to kind of get information out there. We actually leveraged our C-Click Fix system, which maybe many of you are already familiar with, but that's what we're using as our back end to track all of the requests that we're getting, to make sure that we don't lose track of a request that comes in. And that was just a completely new system for most people outside of the Department of Code Enforcement, and they've really helped coach us in how to use that. So that's been a great tool. It is a unique, innovative moment in sort of the city of Burlington's history that, even in these tough times, I hope it's something that you can take pride in too. The city is working cross-departmentally in a way that it really has never done before, to make sure that everybody's kind of urgent questions get answered as quickly as possible. So it's something, we as a community, I think, should really take some pride in. And I want to make one point clear, like, we see the job of the RRC is a router most of all. So, often the city is not the place where the ultimate answer or resolution can come. We have amazing nonprofit partners, amazing community members. We have an amazing sort of volunteer network, local volunteer network. So every chance we get, we're just routing to the right source, but we are this kind of fallback, backstop to make sure that people are getting what they need right now. And you'll be seeing kind of a lot more news in the weeks ahead about how we're going to be launching some new programs, around small business relief, rental assistance, and food access, and a number of other efforts. And that'll become a big part of what the RRC's work is. So I think I've probably talked long enough. I do want to turn it over to my colleague, Darren Springer, who has been kind of a huge part of the RRC since the beginning. We have seen our job as both identifying needs and getting those kind of direct service issues resolved as quickly as possible. But sometimes we've identified policy needs that actually need to be addressed at the state level or even at the federal level. And so we've used a lot of the information we've gotten to raise up issues in a more organized way. And it's been effective in large part because of Darren Springer's involvement in this. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Darren to talk about that effort. And then I don't know if I'm allowed to take questions, or I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that
at the end,
sure.
If that's something that's wanted. So thank you for giving me the chance to address you all here. So Darren, go ahead.
Great. Hi, everybody. Darren Springer, General Manager with Burlington Electric Department. I think the last time I spoke with you at the NPA, we were launching our net zero roadmap. Different circumstances here tonight, but the entire BED team has been proud to be a part of the Resource Recovery Center. We've had some of our call center customer representatives help with taking calls. We've had our IT and website folks helping with some of the website and communication functions. And as Luke mentioned, it's really been an all hands on deck approach from the city. Some of the things we've been working on, that I've been working on with colleagues in state government, is really finding ways to interpret the guidance that's coming from the governor and from the state. The Stay Home, Stay Safe order, I think, is on its 13th addendum at this point. So every few days, in some cases, we're seeing an evolution of the policy guidance that's coming out from state government. What that means in Burlington has been things like we saw just yesterday with being able to reopen certain outdoor recreation facilities. The mayor made that announcement yesterday. We've got a curbside pickup approach now with the library as a result of some of this new guidance. We are taking an approach to advocate for constituents in Burlington. So unemployment was mentioned a few times. We've worked directly with the Department of Labor and very much complementary to what Representative Sullivan mentioned in terms of the legislators are trying to escalate issues. We're trying to do the same thing at the Resource and Recovery Center. So if somebody comes to us with an issue getting access to their unemployment benefits, we have a method to escalate those issues with the Department of Labor, make sure that they're getting a response, make sure we can resolve those issues. I think we've had dozens of folks that we've been able to help in that regard on unemployment, which is very critical. We also are helping a number of small businesses and restaurants, retail operations get information on what they've been able to do under the guidance and what may not be permissible. And in some cases, we're able to take issues that are presented and bring them to the State Agency of Commerce or others in state government and encourage them to address concerns through their guidance. So we're helping in that regard as well. We are working to secure reimbursement for these activities through the state's Federal CARES Act allocation. The state government had received $1.25 billion in federal funds. We think that the Emergency Operations Center in Burlington, as well as the Resource and Recovery Center, are eligible for potential reimbursement, and we're pursuing that as a part of our efforts with the state. And I just wanted to mention as well, just one other item, which is, in addition to these activities, from my Burlington Electric hat on, we are working on a green stimulus program that I want to make sure everybody is aware of. If you go to the Burlington Electric site, we have information on that. Essentially, we're trying to boost as many of our programs as we can so that coming out of this crisis, when economic activity resumes, folks will have as much assistance from us as possible if they're needing to replace a heating system or cooling system, make weatherization improvements to their home or business. We have 0% financing for residential and for small business and nonprofit customers. So if anybody's interested, I'd encourage you to check out the Burlington Electric site for information about the Green Stimulus Program. And with that, I'll pause and like Luke, happy to answer questions if we can.
Yeah, it's a good time for that. So questions for Luke or Darren from anybody? You can type them in the chat or you can try to raise your hand and we'll try to see you. Oh, Joan, I see Joan is raising her hand.
I know there's a technical way to raise my hand I'm looking for here.
It's okay.
But I just really wanted to thank both the leadership in the city that has pulled together all of the resources for the Resource and Recovery Center. And it really wasn't that long ago that every department lived in a silo and there was really very little cooperation between the departments. And the Resource and Recovery Center is really a good example of how those silos have been broken down over the course of time. And then, kind of leading up to this, but also all of the city workers who are not doing the job that they were hired to do and are willingly giving whatever their new assignment is, giving it their all. And on the mask making project, I would note that there are a lot of people making masks for the city who don't live in the city. But one of the people who is making a ton of masks in the city is with us tonight. And I'd like to shout out to Rebecca Levasseur. And I'm sorry, I know I'm butchering your last name here, but Rebecca has been a powerhouse mask maker. And I can tell you, I have made some masks. It takes me about an hour to make one mask. And Rebecca I don't know what your count is. I know I got a batch that was 80 something, but I've gotten more than one batch from you. So I don't know what your total was, but you are one of our highest producing mask makers, and it's really appreciated. It's just been wonderful, all the people that have pitched in to do that, because it is a lot of work. So thank you, Darren and Luke, and also please thank the staff, because what they're doing, what so many people are doing is really amazing. You know, they're problem solving on the fly and figuring it all out, and it really demonstrates the can-do attitude of our city employees.
All right, awesome. I see in the chat that Gail has a question next. Yeah, please go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'm wondering, I don't know if this is for Luke or Darren or either of the city councilors. I was just thinking the other day, I know that there's been also an amazing, successful effort to house homeless folks, I believe, using one of the current hotels, just to, I'm assuming it was to disperse density in the shelters and go for safety. But the other day I thought to myself, what's the wind down plan for that? I started to worry about that in terms of, because there isn't going to be a day when all of this looks maybe safe again in that sort of way, in terms of dense kind of living situations. So I was sort of wondering what the longer term plan might be, if there is one yet. And it occurred to me that maybe the hotel was going to want their hotel back. And then I started worrying. That's all. I guess that's my question. But what's the projection on that for the homeless folks who are so at risk?
Yeah, that's a good question, Gail, and I'm happy to speak to it, and anyone else is welcome to jump in. But like I said, it's kind of was an issue that was top of mind from the very beginning, and we've been tracking it throughout the first kind of actions that were taken, and we've been, I think actually on daily calls with the shelter community here in Burlington to make sure that sort of those needs are being tracked and met. So very quickly, the state expanded the voucher program to get people into hotels and motels. They are now, my understanding is, moving, sort of selecting one hotel to move people to. It's what we're tracking is, our concern is that when you sort of provide services at a high level and then take them away, that can be immensely disruptive to people's lives. So that's kind of an emergent issue that we're starting to think through. But there's a number of different proposals, and even, maybe Representative Sullivan could speak to this. We're continuing to track all of the sort of at the state level, the requests that are being made and the approach that is being proposed for sort of providing additional housing, providing additional support. And I'll just say we're sort of most focused on the low barrier shelter that we moved to the North Beach campground, what kind of the short-term and long-term solution for that population will be. And that's been a near-term focus. But I can let other folks speak to that issue if they'd like to.
Okay, I think we had just maybe Andy, Simon, did you have one more question that you wanted to ask, or did your question get answered? We got to unmute Andy.
Unmute. Andy, you're unmuted. And I'm happy to go ahead and read Andy's question, which was about reopening the city, and I can just scroll on back to it. It's funny, I've been so impressed with the city's response, and here I'm managing this Zoom call. I'm finding operations management to be quite challenging. So lots of respect for what you all are dealing with. Andy, are you unmuted? Oh, okay. So he asked, what does reopening the city look like, and what data will lead to those changes?
Darren, do you want to take that as our sort of policy guru?
I'm glad to take a shot at it. I think what we're seeing, and this is already playing out, is that it's very much an incremental approach as we reopen city services, prioritizing public health and safety. That's been a priority from day one. Continues to be a priority from the mayor and the departments that are working on it. We're taking the state guidance that's evolving pretty much every few days and looking at what city services can be reopened. So we've had, as I mentioned, some of the park facilities, outdoor rec facilities, dog parks are now able to reopen based on that guidance. At Burlington Electric, we've been able to reopen the Wastewood yard at McNeil, which a number of folks in the community were asking us about. Now that some of the restrictions from the state have eased, libraries doing curbside pickup. I think we're going to continue to see a very incremental and measured approach to reopening so that we can keep seeing, hopefully, the public health data support those decisions. We've seen, I think, very much trend in the positive direction in terms of the number of confirmed cases and hospitalizations. And we want to make sure that as we're reopening, we're following all the different guidance in terms of maintaining physical distancing, face coverings, used in all the appropriate situations. All the city departments have temperature check stations for employees who are coming on site to make sure that they're not showing a fever. So we have a number of different health precautions that are being taken as we do reopen these services. And I think the big date to look for now for additional changes is May 15th, because the governor's current stay home, stay safe order expires on May 15th. I expect it to be renewed in some way, but perhaps with different restrictions going forward than exist today. And we'll be looking to learn as much about those as we can, as quickly as we can, and then respond from the city side as we see that.
All right, hey, thanks a lot, Darren and Luke. So the other part on this part of the agenda, we also have our South End city representatives, Karen and Chip and Joan, and we wanted to give them a few minutes too, because I know they're still working just like normal. The city council is working just like normal, and so we wanted to give them a few minutes also to kind of describe their perspectives. So I don't know which one of you, if you've talked ahead of time, which one of you would like to go first.
And if you want to go ahead and unmute yourselves, feel free. I'm unable to override your mute at the moment.
I will say, I wouldn't quite say we're operating as normal. Nothing does feel normal yet. And we have not been having subcommittee meetings since this started. And we are now starting to schedule those subcommittee meetings. I don't know if Karen or Chip has actually had one. Maybe this week we had some of the first subcommittee meetings, all by Zoom still. And I have not heard when we're likely to have actual in-person meetings up to this point. But one of the things that we're really grappling with is we're in our budgeting season now. And so a lot of our discussions are really about what that looks like for the coming year, trying to predict our revenues and which we know are going to be, we know that they're going to have dramatically reduced revenues, trying to predict what we might get from the federal government and what actions we should be taking to address the very different financial landscape that we're facing. And the one good thing is that we're coming into this in a very, very strong financial situation, which is, a big change over the course of recent years. We have built up the unassigned fund, so we have a little bit of cushion, but this is the kind of thing where no normal amount of cushion is going to be able to address the level of need that we have. So there's some very, very tough decisions that are going to have to be made in the coming months. And I'll leave it to Chip and Karen to chime in and add to that.
Karen, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure, or whatever. Hi, both of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good evening to everybody. This is exciting to see so many faces looking back at me I apologize for not being here a little bit sooner. Today is my husband's birthday, and trying to figure out, it's sort of hard to, normally I would probably have come to the Ward 6 NPA, been there for the presentation, and then gone out for dinner. Obviously, that's not what we're doing this evening. So welcome. Glad to see all of you here. I think for what I've been trying to do over the past 8 weeks or so is to address a couple of the things that are a result of COVID. One has been the tremendous amount of rather heartbreaking stories that we've heard from many people in Burlington that are affected by this in many different ways. And I'd also like to mention, to Darren and to Luke and to all of the people who have been working on these issues. It's a work in it's trying to adapt to a very changing reality in being able to help people. Oftentimes when the ways to help people are evolving on a daily or even hourly basis. If you look at the RCC website, the webpage, it's evolved over the last 8 weeks and has become more of a well-oiled machine in terms of being able to for people to access a lot of the resources themselves. The idea of the Resource Center was really to offer people that one-on-one experience, and I think they've done a great job of doing that. What I think has also really hit people as a result of COVID is the tremendous amount of social isolation that a lot of people are feeling right now. Just someone to talk to during the day, someone who even comes by and talks through you through a glass door, someone who is so that people who are used to having other interactions that are no longer possible are having interactions with people. And in Ward 6, I have been calling people that are over a certain age who perhaps are a little bit more socially isolated than many of us are on this that I'm looking at in front of me. And I think that has meant a great deal to people. I know that a lot of people have done that by just calling up a neighbor, going by and seeing a neighbor, talking to a neighbor at a distance. And I think all of those things are tremendously helpful. They may seem small, but if we're all doing it, it's not small. Just wanted to also mention, as far as meetings go, we were told for the beginning the 4th of May that all committees of the City Council could begin to meet. The committee that I chair and that Joan is also on, Parks, Art, and Culture, will have its first meeting on May 13th. Luke will be there, as well as 3 other departments, to sort of give us an idea of what they think the summer is going to look like for the library, for parks, the restart of City Hall Park construction, and also city arts as well. And then just wanted to also just mention, because we were able to finalize it today, one of the biggest challenges at this time has been for many people food insecurity. Many people for whom this was not an issue 2 months ago are now faced with either loss of a job or declining income. And the South End will have its first community food drive pickup next Saturday on the 16th of May. We're doing it in the Champlain School parking lot. We also will have free masks to hand out. The library will be there with free books for children and for adults. And there'll be more on social media about that, as well as I'll hope that anyone who's on here will promote this opportunity for people to come and receive some food, received a gift card from a grocery store, and if you can spread that word, we'd be grateful as well. So I guess, Matt, that sort of covers it for me.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And Chip, thanks for coming.
Sure, I will be brief because I'm last, and I think most of it has been covered. I'd first like to thank Councilor Paul for taking the lead and really doing most of the work on the South End food drive. Looking forward to it, and hopefully it will be a big success. On the RRC, I want to make sure the message still is getting out. Both Luke and Darren have been great, really, in terms of fielding any and all questions. I've reached out to them from matters such as, a business owner that I, work with, or a constituent, their employees are not able to get unemployment, to someone can't pay the rent. I think the expectation is, they're really developing that expertise within the RRC, and each counselor is sort of funneling. So this is obviously a very involved group in the community. And as people have questions or concerns or can't pay rent, can't pay groceries, continue to funnel those to the RRC, which really has done a tremendous job thus far. The only other COVID related, because we're not going to have another NPA meeting, in April, when the administration did pass a property tax relief bill. So if you hear or know of people who are going to have a hard time potentially making their tax payment on June 12th, there is an actual application that has to be submitted that will afford potentially relief from penalties and interest for not making that payment. I would direct anyone that wants more information on that to the city's COVID webpage, where that application is available. And I would also say that the council, on its wisdom, put some sort of strings attached to that. If the property for which relief is being sought is a multi-unit, an apartment building, a residential, we've built in some protections to ensure that relief flows down to renters as well as owner. So anyone that has questions about that, either reach out to any of your counselors or go to the COVID-19 webpage. And I would also echo, I'm the chair of the ordinance committee. It has been an odd 8 weeks because we really, we were in the midst of some very big policy discussions on, Airbnb, short-term rentals, parking. That's all sort of been completely iced. The ordinance committee is starting up next week, but I don't anticipate that joint committee, which was with the planning commission, to start up, simply because that was such a public-facing policy discussion. I think it would be very, very challenging to try and hold that via a Zoom platform. But I'm sure I'll be in discussions with Annie Montrol in terms of when we'll kick that back off, and sort of waiting to hear from the governor on further instructions about opening. So with that, thank you, Matt.
All right, that's great. So Carolyn, I saw, had a question. Please, we got to unmute Carolyn, and then there you go.
I just wanted to know where, if or how we can work with the Karen Paul's Saturday show, what time it is, and if they need donations or help, how can we help you? And when is it and where? For Karen Paul.
Okay, well, it's actually, thanks, Carolyn. I mean, it's really, the three of us are working on this. This is a joint effort, but today was the day that we got permission to be able to use the Champlain Elementary parking lot. It'll be May 16th. It's a Saturday from 9 to 11 in the morning. We're working on, still some of the logistics are still being worked out. We've got the date, we've got the time, we've got the place, and we've pretty much worked through a lot of the other logistics. If there are donations of food that people have an interest in contributing, of course, we'd be happy to have them. And as far as helping, that we're still trying to work that out, because it's, because of social distancing, there's only so many people who can be there doing the actual handing out. And we're still trying to figure that out. But Carolyn, if you have an interest, I will certainly keep you in the loop.
No problem. I was thinking maybe you said the grocery stores were going to give chits, I guess, to get groceries. So maybe I could help buy a couple of those.
That would be wonderful, Carolyn. Thank you. That would be great.
Yeah. So you can reach out to me separately and tell me.
I will.
Maybe some of the other people though would like to know how to do that.
Well, we'll have that out on Front Porch Forum in the next day or so, and we will do it several times to remind everyone of the event. And we will also, I'm hoping that wards 5 and 6 will potentially use their listserv if they have an email list, and we'll get that word out as well. And of course, anyone anywhere in the city is welcome to participate. No, of course, no questions asked. We want people to come.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. Nice to see you.
All right, that's great. Thank you so much. It was a great update, all of you. Really appreciate it. The final thing we have on the agenda is we have Stephanie Seguino who's come in, and she's been doing a photography project in the town, and sounded really interesting. We really wanted to see it, so we invited her to come, and I think she's here and ready to go.
Great, nice to see you all. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, so I started very early after the stay-at-home order, photographing basically all over the city. And what I really wanted to capture was the mood of not only what it looked like, but really what it felt like, because of course it was so hard to photograph people. So I'm just going to show you a series of photographs. They're a little bit sequential. Let me say that I meant to say that if I don't get through all of this, if we don't have enough time, you can go to my photography website, which is just my name, stephanieseguino.com, and you can see all of the photographs there. This was actually the first photograph that I took, and this little girl standing by herself really, in some ways, reflected the vulnerability that I think that all of us were really feeling at the beginning of the stay-at-home order. This is one of the first people that I ran into who was still working, one of the essential workers downtown. Carrie's Quick Stop. Maybe the most interesting thing about doing this photography is I didn't have to worry about getting hit by a car. With nobody on the streets, it was a lot easier. You'll notice this was early on. A couple days later, even the cars started socially distancing. And really, I think the strongest feeling was, as Karen mentioned, was the aloneness of people. This is a homeless person down on St. Paul. The essential workers, nevertheless, still working downtown. And, people have been innovative in terms of carrying out services at home that they wouldn't. And this couple let me photograph them. And he said he needed his haircut, and his promise was to cook dinner for her that night. This was early on, in which people were still out at the parks, and young people in particular, a lot of young people were out. It was very hard. It was very few people that were even in their 30s or 40s out. But just a few days later, of course, the city took down the basketball nets at the parks and closed the parks. And this is at Pomeroy Park, and this is on St. Paul Street. And this photograph was particularly curious to me because the goal, of course, was to keep people from congregating, but nevertheless, people still desire to be together. And this is just a photograph of the park. This was actually near where I live, and this was just a scene that you and I have all seen every day of people walking their dogs from a distance and so forth. And part of what I was really trying to do as I started doing this was really to develop an archive for the city, to give the photographs to the city, because I think at some point we're going to want to go back and remember what this period of time felt like. So these are just some photographs. This is Main Street, noontime on a weekday. These are a couple of photographs. They're not the best photographs in the world, but they really capture the deep sense of fear, especially in the first days. You see people just moving really quickly, not talking to other people and so forth. And of course, many people seeking refuge in natural areas. This is a girl that I photographed in the Old North End, and she was sitting in her window talking to her boyfriend, who was in his car on the street. Some people you might recognize. I think, one of the things that, of course, has come out of this is the family time that has happened for a lot of people, and people trying to kind of entertain their kids. This is the parking lot for the farmers market. One of the things that came out of this was I thought I knew Burlington extremely well, but walking through the city, one really sees the depth of poverty in the city. And, sort of not only the emptiness where you expect people to be, but also really the fragility of a lot of people's lives in the city. You might not think that this represents COVID, but a lot of it was also an internal reflection of how I was feeling. And this crooked cross really seemed to capture, that life really felt askew. This is North End Studio parking lot. There actually has continually been a lot of kids that have been skateboarding at the skateboard park. And the last time I was there and photographing, they were highly anxious and were worried that I was going to report them to the police. I did not. I photographed a lot of graffiti in the city and mural art. It was really impressive. This is a dog at the skateboard park. I don't know if any of you recognize this person. She's taking a break from Zoom meetings with the legislature. People were outdoor painting. These are college students that are cleaning up their yard. In many ways, this was one of the quintessential photographs, of people's isolation. One of the things that was really striking to me, these were all over the city. I was out photographing. I don't know if you noticed them. And I asked myself one day, who was this person or who was responsible for doing this? But it just reminds me of the enormous community contributions that people make, even, in an just unorganized way to respond to the crisis. One day was a really bad day. It was one of my really down days, and all I did was photograph the colored houses in the Old North End as a way to kind of weather the impact of the crisis. This is the parking lot where I usually park my car. I teach at UVM. This is usually where it's filled with cars at this time, and it became a meeting space. I don't know, this photograph just really captured me, and I photographed a few of these empty billboards all through town as a result of the shutdown. This is, this is one of those photographs that might not appear to be about COVID, but in many ways it kind of, has this kind of psychological impact that really captured, I think, what many people were feeling during this period of time. This happens to be also an area where a lot of young kids skateboard, and it's really a community that they built. And I don't know if you can read this sign, but it says, "Without this, we might as well be dead." I made a lot of discoveries about the city during, as I was photographing places that I had not seen and communities that I had not known about before. This is Duena Duende with outdoor service. And of course, these signs are now ubiquitous. This is a student actually of mine that I ran into when I was out photographing, and he had told me that he had started wearing a mask very early, but maybe perhaps because he was Asian, people were giving him a really hard time and avoiding him, and he felt a really intense kind of negative response early on. And then started venturing into the woods, partly just because so many people have been moving into natural areas to survive. And this was one of the last photographs I took, but really, I think, emblematic of how we've been trying to manage. So that was it. Thank you so much for watching it.
Wow, that is really cool. I'm going to ask the first question. When you said you're making an archive, did you look through like 1918 flu pandemic pictures as kind of inspiration? Because a lot of the images you're showing, they kind of echo things I've seen in the last couple of months from that time.
It's funny, I have not looked at that at all. I'll have to go look at some of those photographs. Yeah, so the city councilors are here, but I was thinking of donating these to the city for our city archive, just to have as a record of this period of time. So I'm happy to do that if you'd like them.
All right. Would anybody else have a question? I see a couple of nice comments in the chat. Amazing photographs. Very appreciative. Anybody else have a question they'd like to ask Stephanie? Okay, Carolyn. Uh-oh. There we go. You're unmuted. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Hey, I think that was a fabulous thing that you've just done, and perhaps other people can join in. I'm not sure. I belong to a group of international professional photographers called ASMP, American Society of Media Photographers. There's 7,000 of us, and some of us on April 27th, 2020, photographed one day in the life of, and I've submitted those, and they will be online, I think, next week. But I think it's a fabulous gift that you're giving to the city, and I hope you continue to photograph, for the rest of this round, which could be another year. We don't know. And also the New York Times about 4 weeks ago had international photographers photograph several cities and places like the Eiffel Tower, and they're totally empty. So you might want to look at those. I did put them on my Facebook, but you have to scroll down quite a ways to see them. They're very powerful.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions here? Looking around. Okay. Well, that's our agenda. It was not too bad. Better than I might have thought. I can't wait till we're all together in person, but this is definitely better than, as good as we could do. And very appreciative of everybody making a little time. I think we'll probably try to do something again in June. I don't know why not.
Yes, great.
Yeah. All right. So everybody have a great
Thank you,
evening.
Matt.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Matt.
Thank you,
All right.
Matt.
Thanks, Lucia.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Take
Mary.
care.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mary.
counselors.
You.
Thank you.